Chapter 7. Hook woke up the following morning feeling like he'd come out the other end of the rumble in the jungle. Maybe this thought was prompted by a sigh of his right hand wrapped up like a fighter's mitt, not to mention that the pounding in his skull, which felt like Ali was floating like a butterfly in there, throwing lightning jabs at his eye sockets. Jesus God, Hook wanted to say, but he was thwarted in his desire to break the second commandment by a mouth drier than the sand in a fire bucket, and so barely managed to separate his lips. What issued forth from those lips was not language so much as an animal growl, but it was enough to attract the attention of a nurse on the other side of the screen who separated him from the rest of the small ward. The nurse was Elodie, who looked like she could sleep for 100 years, given the opportunity. The girl looks dog rough, thought Hook. Maybe I done picked the wrong woman to yearn for. But then Elodie smiled at him, and Hook's doubts were dispelled. Constable Hook, she said, y'all came back to us, thank the Lord. Hook wasn't dumb enough to read anything from the Lord into the Lord being thanked. This was a platitude, pure and simple. But a lot of relationships was sparked off by trauma. Maybe this could be one of those. Elodie trickled some water down his parched gullet, and when Hook felt he'd been sufficiently libated, he asked, How long have I been out? All night, she said, and most of the morning, snoring like a hawk too. I never heard such a racket. She's testing my limits, thought Hook. People get emboldened, kicking a guy when he's down. Careful there, Miss Nurse, he said softly, but with an edge to it. Even lawmen got feelings. Elodie stepped back. Sorry, Constable. Guess my bedside manner could use a little work. That depends on the bed, said Hook, and left it at that. Maybe next week, if this Carnahan storm passed by, he could drive around to Elodie's shack for a proper thank you. Any calls coming from me? He asked now. Nothing came in, but I called Lori, said Elodie. Hook grunted. Lori was the secretary he shared with Mayor Shine. Petit Pateau couldn't find an extra secretary, so the truth was that Hook did most of his own dispatching and paperwork, but Lori manned the phone most weekday mornings. She missed me? Asked Hook. Lori was wondering as to your whereabouts, so I told her you'd been bedding and was resting up in here. Nothing much going on in the office. Lori says there was probably some ruckus downriver last night. Some swamp rats dynamite fishing, probably. Dynamite fishing, thought Hook. Shit. These people are making up their own narratives. I told Lori that you'd be out for another few days at least. Maybe a week. A week? I don't have no week to be laid up here. This was true. Hook sensed that time was a commodity. He didn't have an abundance of truth. Abundance of it in this case. How he saw it was like this. Ivory dispatched him out to the bayou to deal with some swamp justice to Carnahan. This makes sense for Ivory, as Hook is his man on the water. But then the New Orleans boss decides to fasten his hold on Regents by sending a spy to video Hook doing the job Ivory dispatched him to do. A tangled goddamn web, thought Hook. And so the whole situation had clusterfucked itself. Ivory's spy was dead or messed up, and the boss knew that Hook was onto him and after him. If it was Ivory, thought Hook, because if it wasn't him, I ain't got a clue who to hunt. He should have a clue, he knew that, but the venom hangover was clouding his brain. The situation was critical, but Hook knew he better get smoothed over. Ivory coming after him was interfering with his own plan to go after Ivory, which had always been his endgame. You gotta lay up, Constable, said Elodie, trying to sound firm. We took you off dialysis. The doctor wants to keep you in observation in case the symptoms reoccur. Hook sat up with some considerable effort. Just help me out better, Elodie. I got a call to make. I ain't even told you about the physical therapy, objected Elodie. You want to lose the use of that entire arm? Because that's what you're fixing to do by making a call.
Put a pamphlet under my pillow, said Hook. I can look after myself.
Lodi made no attempt to dissuade Hook. You shouldn't even be walking, Constable, she said. Not in your condition. Hook swung his legs out of bed.
Honey, I led a patrol across Ramadi with a concussion, so I think I can make my way across the floor.
Lodi flinched at some of the endearment, but swallowed it down. You could go blind.
Well, in that case, said Hook, I'll most certainly go back to bed.
The girl was certainly doing her best to save his life. He had to give her that, even though she wasn't exactly sweet on him. Not as of yet.
I'll redouble my efforts. Maybe put her kid in the hospital for a few weeks to give me a clear run at her. But right now, there is containment to be attempted with the King of New Orleans.
Thinking of Ivory soured Hook's mood for a few notches, and he forgot his fondness for Lodi.
Leave me to my phone, woman, he snapped, pulling a drip feed out of his arm. I gotta be about my business.
Lodi had some sass in her and snapped right back. Your phone is in the locker, Constable. A man who led a patrol across the Mahdi ought to be able to navigate a few feet of linoleum. Hook considered punching the nurse with his good hand, then reconsidered. This was a clinic, not a dark alley, and punching a nurse never looked good in print. Plus, it might be that he would swing wild and land on his ass. So he smiled as sweetly as possible for a man like him and said,
My apologies, Miss Moreau. I'm a little testy today. Must be the poison in my system.
No need to apologize, Constable Hook, said Lodi, her flash of anger disappearing as quickly as they arrived. I'm a mite testy myself, so there's a pair of us in it.
Not yet, thought Hook, but soon enough.
Hook stumbled into the day room with his phone. Glowering at some good old boy with a gashed up forehead until the man took his copy of Guns and Ammo and skedaddled. Hook sent a message to an old-fashioned pager number, and 10 minutes later got a call back from his handler. Regents would prefer to have a sit-down with Ivory himself at his Retro Mafia hotel, but the boss ran his criminal enterprises the same way he ran his financial advisor office back in Wall Street, i.e., like a real business. If a street-level operative wanted a meeting with the top dog, it would take 6 months to find an opening in his calendar. And even then, it'll probably end up being 5 minutes on FaceTime, so Hook would have to content himself with a call. That being said, being as Hook was one of Ivory's pet cops, he would at least marry a grade A flunky, the Rolls Royce of bodyguards. The twin. The single twin. Tragic story. See, there have been 2 twins until recently, which was the accepted norm by definition, until one became the first casualty of Ivory's land grab, gunned down outside an inner-city community center by a teenage hit girl. And then there was one, a big African Creole bruiser by the name of Rosano Roque. Rosano was way into his martial arts. He could chop down a tree with his hands, so they said. Picked up the name Grasshopper in 5th grade after that old show Kung Fu, then sodded off to G-Hop when he grew up some. And G-Hop, it was to this day. Only Ivory called the big man Rosano. What's the big emergency, cop? Asked G-Hop. I got business needs attending. This was reassuring. Rosano was his usual pissed-off self, so nothing out of the ordinary.
Relax, Rogue,
said Hook, trying to sound all casual, like he wasn't laying up a snake bite. You want to tell me what we're doing here, Regents? If the feds are up on me, this don't look good for either of us.
Up on me, thought Hook, sneering. Someone's been watching the wire. If the federales were up on you, I'd know, and shortly after, you'd know, said Hook. You ain't even on their list, small fish like you.
G-Hop snuffled down the phone, and Hook could imagine his face, looking all pissed off. It was typical of these slingers. They all wanted liberty and notoriety. Difficult to have it both ways. Good, he said. That's the way I like it. That's the way I like it, Hook. Anonymity, you understand?
Smart move, kid. Stay low profile. Those old mafia guys were assholes. All bling and celebrity trim, right? Showboating is why they got their collars felt. I like your way better. Low profile. Nothing special about what's on a Roke.
Roke exhaled noisily. You know, Hook. Hook. I can't figure the angles on you baiting me. You're crooked. We own you. So why the back and forth today, all of a sudden? Hook decided to come clean with his condition.
Baby, it's residential venom got me acting all crazy. Nurse said it might happen.
You got bit? Said Roke.
Yeah, I got snake bit. Stupid, right? A man of my experience. But it happens. I just want to assure you that in spite of my incapacitation, the job Mr. Conti entrusted to me is done. Maybe you already knew that?
I know now. You got me on the phone for that? You could have sent an emoji, thumbs up or some shit?
Sometimes communication breaks down, said Hook. The people forget their roles, and chaos can't be far behind, am I right?
Hook was listening close. The thing was, he was talking complete gibberish unless the person had the code. The code being the Ivory Cell Watcher. And if that was the case, then no doubt his head of security had set it up. But G-Hop sounded mystified. What the hell, Hook? I think that venom is all up in your system because you are talking total crap. The only thing forgetting their role is you, frankly. I'm the boss, and you are my dog. A clever dog, granted. America's Got Talent type level dog, but dog nonetheless. So, I got your message. The job is done, and Mr. Ivory is grateful, which will be reflected in your envelope. Can we leave it at that? Can we not elaborate around civilians where there could be lasers bouncing off the window? So long as Mr. Conti is clear of this shit, he don't want to hear about it. Are you feeling me, Hook? G-Hop was making a lot of sense. His boss, Ivory, knew more than most how evidence of any sort had a way of making it on the internet. Many of his banker friends from back on Wall Street had been sunk by cell phone video or recovered emails.
Maybe I was wrong, Hook thought. Maybe Ivory ain't my guy.
Then again, it was more likely that Roke would make day-to-day decisions like getting some dirt on Hook to keep him loyal.
So you didn't send no kid to video me doing the deed? He asked.
No, I goddamn didn't! Shouted Roke. Then he realized the implication of this question. Are you telling me that a kid shot video?
Could be, admitted Hook. There was a camera involved. I'm pretty sure it's blown to pieces, but they make these things pretty rugged nowadays.
Did you happen to mention Ivory's name while you were conducting business?
Now that is a pertinent question, said Hook. I might have relayed a message from Mr. Conti. This is from Ivory, that kind of thing.
Well, that's just fucking great, said G-Hop. Just fucking dandy. I should just do you, Hook. Seriously. Hook actually laughed at his death threat.
You best not talk trash, son, or you'll go the way of your brother. Know what I mean?
God damn, swore G-Hop. Look at this for a clusterfuck. I put you on this, Hook, because you assured me that you were talented and discreet. Talented and discreet. Your very words.
I am discreet, argued Hook, feeling a tightness in his chest. I was discreet, but so was the asshole in the bushes.
And you thought I sent a spotter, said Rosano, to keep you on a leash?
Crossed my mind.
G-Hop took a moment to assess before speaking. Okay, here's my take on it, cop. Maybe I did send a spotter, in which case Ivory owns you. But then he already owns you, and a lot more like you. But I'm saying that I didn't send a spotter, in which case you got a problem running around Honey Island Swamp. If I was you, I'd be assuming that I didn't send that spotter and start looking for him on your end. Because even if I did send him, there ain't dick you can do about it anyways. It made sense. Hook had to admit, if only to himself. If Ivory had the video, then it was now locked in his famous super safe in his office, which Hook was not getting into without a specialist. If Ivory didn't have the video, then someone at Regents' own parish did. And he better go and sort that shit out before the clip made it back to Ivory. The kid who filmed you, said G-Hop. If not sent by Avery, then local, yeah?
Correct, said Hook.
More sense from Roke. Is there a local kid who might let you gone? Some kid who knows the bayou?
Shit, Colonel. There's maybe 24. But I know who's top of the list. Squib Moreau,
he thought Hook. They mainly felt the righteousness of it.
That little prick hates me on account of my future relationship with his mama. If it was him, it's only a matter of time before the video winds up being played for a jury of my peers. Or even worse.
And here, Your Honor, is where Constable Hook guts the drug smuggler with his knife. We can see the intestines clearly.
And the judge would say, "Turn that shit off! I just ate a burrito."
G-Hop was weighing on his steak. Well, said the self-styled ninja, you got any thoughts on the subject? Hook took his time.
I'll tell you one thing, G-Hop, he said finally. I ain't about to talk burritos with no judge.
Which confused the hell out of Rosano.
Just the way I like it, thought Hook, and hung up without another word. Squib Moreau, thought Hook,
his heart beating almost hard enough to crack his ribs.
Squib fucking Moreau,
thought Hook, and the sad faded from his eyes.